Hi, Matt, product specialist here at Freeform Fabrication, here to do another video for the laser engraving tutorials, how to convert handwriting over into a vector to then engrave it onto something. So, since it's been Father's Day recently, what we have here is this image. So this is a bit of handwriting done by my 3-year-old little boy, and obviously at that age they need to follow something, which is where you've got the yellow line and then the black line. You may think that's going to be difficult, but we'll be able to separate that, no problem at all.
Go over the letter. Good boy.
What's this for?
That's a D, and then you can do the A. Good boy. And then the D.
That's an apple.
A for apple, good boy. And then you,
Ant.
and for ant, yeah, you can do the D. Good boy, you did it.
You say cheese.
See?
So the first thing is getting the handwriting, so getting them to write it. Next step is how do we convert that to a vector? So what we want to do is get that vector and go to something like this called Vector Magic. So this is what we use, and you can drag the image in. So this is just taken on my phone, nothing special, and we can now just put this through Vector Magic. What Vector Magic does is converts the image, JPEG, PNG or whatever, over to a vector. So I'm just making this a bit smaller because it was a large image for Vector Magic to use, so just making it a bit smaller. Pressing OK, and that will automatically convert that over to a vector. So now we can download this. Download it as an SVG using Vector Magic. And now we can bring that into the software. So I've downloaded that to the downloads folder, of course, and here it is. So when we bring that in, this is normal for handwriting because of the paper that it's written on. The vector will pick up all of the texture of the paper and of everything that's going on. So first thing to do, reduce it down to a reasonable size. You click on the zoom pick to then zoom in on the object. Next step is to press ungroup. So ungroup it from this icon at the top here, and now it's separated it out into a series of curves basically. And that's when we need to get to work to delete the extra stuff, the noise as I tend to call it. So just go around and delete all of this. The cleaner the vector you have, the better it will be. So where you can avoid using paper with any texture or colour, or or taking the photo, making sure there's no shading on it. All of these things will help you. This feels like it might take a long time, but it really shouldn't, to clean this up to something that you can use. Of course, when it's not a 3-year-old little boy following the yellow, it'd be even easier. Because you wouldn't have the guide lines to get rid of as well. But it won't take too long either way. So already we're getting towards what we want for the actual writing. So now we're left with just the guidelines and the writing itself. So at this stage what I'd probably do is bring this up and bring the image up. So do it side by side so you can see what lines you need to keep and what lines you don't. So obviously we can see the black line follows this way, so it means we can delete everything that's here. So just getting rid of those lines that we don't need. And also using the contrast of colour, the black against the yellow was really good because it helps us pick out the part we actually need. Now we can see on the inside of the top left there, this bit is the guideline again. Now I'm not a designer by any means, so there may be things like Illustrator or anything like that where you may do this more efficiently, of course, and go ahead, feel free to use what you have. Me not using those software, I want to show you the very basic way using the software of how to do all of these jobs, just to show you what it is capable of. What you can also do is have a look and see if you've got any solid bits like this that you can take out, and then just see what you've got left there. The other thing you can try, just to see if it works, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, is do this, go to modify, plastic and weld, and see if it will join all up together, which it's done a pretty good job of. Because we've got most of the black, we've got the black line there, and you can see it's following the right direction that we want it to. It's just got a lot of these excess lines where it's joined some things together. So now if we just uncombine that, so when you do plastic and weld, it always combines it like this. So we just want to uncombine that. You see how that list changed. Look at all of these curves that are in there. So you grab that main outline and inline. So if we zoom in, we want this line and this line. We want to pull those away, and these are all the little bits left behind that we don't need. So just delete all of those and move it back down. Right, now we want to go to the A. And again, we're just going to delete the main bits that we know we don't need. So I think that's pretty close to as good as this. The main thing is looking at the shape of it and just checking that it is as close as you can, because you could spend another 10 minutes deleting all of these tiny lines. But I think once you've got pretty much the main shape, if you do this weld and then uncombine, once you've done the weld, you can really see the main shape is there, and that's when you can move that and delete the excess that's there, all these tiny little lines there. That'll just help you get through that little bit quicker. And then on to the last one. So we have this, he went for a bit of creative license here, making the extra flick at the end there. Delete the excess. So we should now be left with pretty much exactly the same as what we have there in the photo, on the handwriting itself. I think you look at that and it follows pretty closely. There, the next step now is hatching it. Let's see what happens if we get a good hatch on that. So these settings, you can have a look at how to hatch things properly in the hatching video. I'm looking hatch 1, and we're gonna do a test on brass first to make sure it's nice, and then we'll put it onto a ring afterwards. So this is looking pretty good, but it's always good to zoom in on your hatch, just to really make sure. We'll probably do 0.02 actually, we don't need 0.01, otherwise it will take a very long time to do. So that's what you're looking for, nice crisscross on the hatch. Like we would see here if something wasn't quite right. What's good is we've got a nice bold blue there, And again, just zoom in on each letter just to make sure. We're looking pretty good. So now we're going to engrave this on a bit of brass here just to test it out, and we are using the new Nano 60 watt, which has this awesome camera, which I will set up now to show you. This camera is also to help you with the focus. So those two dots being perfectly over the top of each other is exactly what we're looking for. So we can now preview this, and you can see on there we're in a really good spot. You can see there's just a bit scrappy. This is the initial test I've done on something. So we can preview that, get it in position. You can see the lines here going across. That's just mapping the direction that the engraving is going to go. That's not actually going to engrave, or it shouldn't actually engrave those points. You can also preview with just a box if you prefer. But in this case, it's nice to see the whole design as one. I'm going to get nice into the top. This is, while it's a bit of scrap, we still don't want to use more metal than we need. So try not to cut it off, but there we go. So let's run this test. I will flick back to the camera. So now that engraving's finished, we can open the lid and have a look. On the Nano, you have the option to turn off 2 red lights and have a look at the engraving. So you can feel it's very deep, and it's looking pretty good. So now, that's when we can put that onto a ring. So we did that test on the brass, came out pretty well actually. Nice and deep, nice and clean, good hatch. So the next thing we're going to do is do this, but on this ring here. So you can see it's a bit of a sort of signet type thing. So firstly what we need to do is turn the hatch around. So we want to go to modify, transform, and turn it this way. It's better to do it this way because you get exact 45 degrees change. Now we want to preview. Oh yeah, so if you see on the camera here, way too big. So we're just going to reduce that down in size. Of course you could measure the top if you wanted to. And you'll notice one thing's changed on the hatch here. I'm not sure what this metal is. This is a test ring really. We've got another one a similar shape that we're going to use for the Instagram post for Father's Day. So we're just going to, I'm testing on this one first before I then do it on the one we want to use for the actual post. So let's tighten that clamp a touch. I've done the focus on the ring already, and now I can move this. Great thing about the camera is being able to check the position. Lovely. So yeah, now we're in position on there. Close that lid down, and now we can give this a go. So after a couple of tests on that metal there, that silver, it's more silver. Whilst I used the XRF analyzer that we have, and it was actually copper, the silver setting is the best one for this. So now I'm going to do, I've done one pass and it worked really well. Now I'm going to do another 5 passes just to get some depth in there. You see, engraving like that is really, really quick. So just by doing the extra 5 passes, you see how you get the depth into the engraving. So now we can turn red light and red 1 and 2 off. And now you can see that engraving there. So I can now just check the depth. And so probably just do a couple more passes, because if this is going to be buffed, you can say that's going to take out a couple, take out the depth of the engraving a little bit by buffing that. So just by doing that extra couple of passes adds that extra tiny bit of depth. And there we are. So now, there you are. See, that is how you do handwriting and converting that to go on a flat object. So how to convert an image into a vector and sort of fix it in the software to then be engraved. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.